hatred make you turn for your people. Wise up, I feel be smart. DJ, turn up the lights on the start. Ring tune, pull it up, celebrate cause we no carry grudge in the heart. We no carry grudge in the heart. Everybody feel right. Good vibes in the place all night. Cause we don't carry grudge, we people. We not have time for your study, no evil. Don't make them catch you with the bad energy. Smiling on your face, but me I tell them my enemy. How many times you try to cure them? I fi cut them out, that they only remedy. Everybody go through things. We not perfect, so we don't do the blame game thing. Know this trial's gonna come one day. I fi endure, adapt me and sing. Any function must clean, then step out, peel out, jump in a car, tire screech out. GPS it have put in the road. Dream team touch the scene, everybody scream out. Wait up, turn up the lights on the start. Ring tune, pull it up, celebrate cause we no carry grudge in the heart. We no carry grudge in the heart. DJ, turn up the lights on the start. Ring tune, pull it up, celebrate cause we no carry grudge in the heart. We no carry grudge in the heart.
Energy them not real, them a fake. But the grass low, so we get to see this snake them. Pass the cutlass, give me the rate. And a long time I don't tell them, say the whole of them a fake. Them can't hold me down, cause it's a party night. Good vibes in the air, tonight me feeling right. But I'm not hypocrite, but I'm not parasite. Them not show themselves for day, but them come out tonight. Them a vampire, I run from the light. Them just remember every day, them spirit no right. Them a combine evil, too much idle time. And whatsoever in the dark, if it come in a light.
Turn up the lights on the start. Ring tune, pull it up, celebrate cause we no carry grudge in the heart. We no carry grudge in the heart. DJ, turn up the lights on the start. Ring tune, pull it up, celebrate cause we no carry grudge in the heart. We no carry grudge in the heart.
But them not really smiling at me face, me realize. Just give me the strength for me, see they might me spiritualize. Still I enduring at this struggle when the pressure rise. Man, I be hustle in at the giddy and be stay alive. Love, sweat and tears, endure self-sacrifice. Still not give up, can make mind rest pan a price. Just give me strength for you overcome my enemies. Them full of hatred, them full of jealousy. Man, true to the thing, we not fake, we not counterfeit. I know for them, what they know them full of be perfect, Israel never quit. Have to be purged in the fire, so me tell you this. Man, true to the thing, we not fake, we not counterfeit. I know for them, what they know them full of be perfect, Israel never quit. Have to be purged in the fire, so me tell you this.
Turn up the lights on the start. Ring tune, pull it up, celebrate cause we no carry grudge in the heart. We no carry grudge in the heart. DJ, turn up the lights on the start. Ring tune, pull it up, celebrate cause we no carry grudge in the heart. We no carry grudge in the heart.
Hey, shalom, shalom. Most High in Christ bless. So all praise to the Most High. We made it our next day to be at Radio Mart. All right, we are here at Radio Mart. All praise to the Most High. IUIC Netherlands. You're speaking with Officer Micaiah and Farmer Rita.
Soldier Abir.
Soldier Abir. All praise to the Most High. So hey, the topic of today is loving thyself. All right, depression. All right, loving thyself, depression. Okay, so before we get into it, don't forget there's a telephone number that you can call in, 020-471-4291. 020-471-4291. All right, to call in live to be on the radio show. Yes, don't forget to visit our Facebook, YouTube page, and also our Twitter and Instagram page, IUIC Netherlands, yeah, or IUIC Amsterdam. Okay, so let's open up. Get me the book of John chapter 8 and verse 32. Yeah?
This is the book of John, chapter 8, verse 32.
Yeah?
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
One more time.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. What is the truth? Hey, guess what? The truth is to let you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians know that you are God's chosen people. You're God's special chosen people. Yes, you are the Israelites that God is speaking about when you read the Bible. When you read Israel, children of Israel, guess what? It's speaking about the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. All right, so let's prove that a little bit. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 28. Deuteronomy chapter 28, and you're gonna read verse 15. Let's prove it a little bit. Yeah.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 15.
Go ahead.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God,
Yes.
to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So here it says all these curses will come upon us and overtake us. Moses is speaking to the children of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel. He said, hey, if you don't listen to keep God's commandments, all these curses, all these bad things are going to happen to us. So jump to verse 48. Read verse 48.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 48.
Go ahead.
Therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies,
You hear that? Therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies. Go ahead.
which the Lord shall send against thee,
Which God sent them against us. Go ahead.
in hunger,
In hunger. When we want the food, we have to go to who? Our enemies. For instance, Albert Heijn, Lidl, Deka. You name them up. Go ahead.
and in thirst,
And in thirst, you want a drink? Hey, you gotta go to who? Your enemy. Go ahead.
and in nakedness,
Clothing. And you want to buy a shirt, want to buy socks. You have to go to your enemy. Go ahead.
and in want of all things.
Driver's license, education, a job, a job. Yes, correct. Go ahead.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
Read that piece one more time.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
So what race of people had yokes of iron on their necks once upon a time? Yes, the transatlantic slave trade, the trans-Saharan slave trade, we had yokes upon our necks. Read the last piece.
Until he hath destroyed thee.
Until we don't even know up to today that we are God's chosen people, that we are the Israelites that the Bible is speaking about. All right, from there, go to 68.
Verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
So it says the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again. Get us the meaning of Egypt. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 2. Remember, when we were in Egypt, we were slaves under Pharaoh. That's why Moses told Pharaoh, let my people go. All right. So read what you have. Exodus 20 and 2.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 2.
Yes.
I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt,
Out of the land of Egypt.
out of the house of bondage.
What's the meaning of Egypt?
Bondage.
Bondage, slavery. Okay, so go back now to verse 68 in Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68.
Yes.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships,
With ships. Go ahead.
by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again.
So just like how Moses says, it's going to happen, it happened. Did slavery happen? Did we went into slavery on ships? Bondage on ships? Yes. What other race of people went into slavery on ship? No other race of people except the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. So read it again. Thou shalt see it.
Thou shalt see it see it no more again.
We will not see our homeland, Jerusalem, again. Go ahead.
And there ye shall be sold.
And what?
And there
So
ye shall be sold.
So when we come off of the slave ships, what would happen to us?
Be sold unto your enemies.
Sold to our enemies. 50-50, 100-100, 150, sold. Go ahead.
For bound man
For slave man
and bound woman.
and slave woman. Go ahead.
And no man shall buy you.
Nobody is going to be able to redeem us, to save us, except the black Messiah. Yes, I said it. The black Messiah. That's Christ. All right. So this is the proof that the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians are God's chosen people, God's special race of people, the Israelites that the Bible speak about. All right, so we have to understand. All right, we have to understand. Guess what? This is God's chosen people. Hey, now we have work to do. All right, now we have work to do. So the name of the class is Loving Thyself, Depression. All right, Loving Thyself, Depression. So first, let's first deal with loving thyself a little bit. Let's jump into that a little bit. Get me the book of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus. All right, Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, chapter 30 and verse 23. So we're gonna touch a little bit on loving ourselves, how we supposed to love ourselves. All right. So give me that in Sirach chapter 30 and verse 23.
30.
Yes, Ecclesiasticus chapter 30 and verse 23.
This is the book of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, chapter 30, verse 23. Love thine own soul.
Love thy what?
Love thy own soul.
So you see, the Bible is telling us to what? Love ourselves. All right, love ourselves. If we can't love ourselves, we can't love anyone else. Go ahead.
And comfort thy heart.
Comfort your heart. All right, comfort your mind. Go ahead.
Remove sorrow far from thee. For sorrow hath killed many. And there is no profit therein.
And there is no profit therein. So he said, hey, love thine own soul. So get me the precept for love. Let's see what type of love is the Bible speaking about. All right. 1 John chapter 5 and verse 3. All right. 1 John chapter 5 and verse 3. Let's see what the Moses said, love your own soul. What is he speaking about?
This is the book of 1 John chapter 5 and verse 3.
Yes.
For this is the love of God.
For what?
For this is the love of God.
Go ahead.
That we keep his commandments.
That we what?
That we keep his commandments.
Go ahead.
And his commandments are not grievous.
And his commandments are not grievous. So you see, what is love? Keeping God's commandments. It's for our benefit. All right? It's for our benefit. Get me that in Romans chapter 7. It's for our benefit. All right? Romans chapter 7. Because the end of the day, we have to remember. These laws was created for us to not only govern ourselves, but also help our brothers and sisters also. All right. Get me verse 12.
This is the book of Romans chapter 7 verse 12. Wherefore the law is holy.
Go ahead.
And the commandments holy. And just and good.
And just and what?
And good.
And good. You hear that? The commandments are good for us. Because guess what? It's telling us, hey, how to treat ourselves. How to treat our wives, how to treat our daughters, our sons, how to treat our brothers, our sisters, all right? How to govern ourselves. So that's why it says it's holy, the law is holy, Commandment is holy and just and good. All right? And just and good. Okay? So, hey, give me that in Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 17. Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 17. So we have to remember, hey, we have to first start with self. All right? Start with self. Start to love yourself. How are you going to love yourself? By what? Following God's commandments. All right? That's where you first start.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 17.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him.
And not suffer sin upon him. That's showing love to your neighbor. Go ahead.
18. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people.
So you see the children of thy people, but go ahead.
But thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
What is that verse? Thou shalt what?
Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Finish it off.
I am the Lord.
So you see, how would you love your neighbor if you don't even love yourself? That's why it says in the last piece, it said, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. So that means if you hate yourself, guess what? You're also going to hate your brother, hate your sister that looks like you. All right? From there, let's go to the book of Mark chapter 4 and verse 19. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. All right? Mark 4 and verse 19. Because why some of us are in a depressive state? We're in a depressive state because a lot of us are still worrying about the cares of the world. All right? So read what you have there.
This is the book of Mark, chapter 4, verse 19.
Yeah.
And the care of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, and the lusts of other things.
And the lust of what?
And the lust of other things.
The lust of other things. So that's a wide variety of other things. But go ahead.
Entering in. Choke the word.
Why it does?
Choke the word.
It chokes the word. Go ahead.
And it become unfruitful.
And then you become now unfruitful. You become transparent. You fall back, you fall out. We don't see you anymore. All of a sudden, you're absent. All right? You're out of reach. Okay? So, guess what? It says the cares of the world. So, we're going to touch on a few things on the cares of the world. On, hey, what happens. But go to, first, before we go to that, go to 1 John chapter 2 and verse 15. 1 John chapter 2 and verse 15. So it says the cares of the world. The cares of the world.
This is the book of 1 John chapter 2 verse 15. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him.
You see, the love of the Father is not in him. Example, look at what is going on right now. Look at what is going on. When you turn on the news, all you're hearing is global warming, corona. But guess what? God is in charge of everything. God is the one who created everything. All right? So read verse 15 again.
Verse 15. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world.
Go ahead.
If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him.
Why? Read verse 16.
For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh.
The what?
The lust of the flesh.
That's what we just read in Mark 4 and 19 about the cares of the world. It's the lust of the flesh. Things what we think we need, but we actually do not need them. Continue. Lust of the flesh.
And the lust of the eyes.
The lust of the eyes. Go ahead.
And the pride of life.
And the what?
And the pride of life.
Oh, exactly, because these things, they what? They make you prideful. They make you prideful. Continue.
Is not of the Father, but is of the world.
But is of the world. It's not of the Father, but is of the world. So what does it profit you to be driving around in a Porsche, but guess what? You live in your mother's house, or you live in your father's house? So what does it profit you? And you can't even maintain yourself. All right? But what? The lust of the world and the lust of things creep in and choke the word. All right? So let's get some of those examples. Let's touch on one example is, for instance, our family members. All right? So get me that in Matthew chapter 10. Matthew chapter 10. All right? Matthew chapter 10, because that's a big one. Even brothers and sisters who are in the truth. All right? Even brothers and sisters who are in the truth. This is start at verse 34.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 34.
Go ahead.
Think not that I come to send peace on earth.
So this is Christ speaking. Those of you who have the red letter words, this is Christ speaking. Read verse 34.
Think not that I come to send peace on earth.
Go ahead.
I came not to send peace, but a sword.
Go ahead.
For I am come to set a man at variance against his father.
Go ahead.
And the daughter against her mother. And the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law.
Yes.
And a man's foes shall be they of his own household.
And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. So he's letting you know, hey, guess what? We're going to have enemies in our house. We're going to try to keep the laws, and guess what? Our brother or sister might not want to keep the laws. It's going to come a little conflict in the house. But read verse 37.
Verse 37. He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me.
Go ahead.
And he that loveth son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me.
Read verse 38.
And he that taketh not his cross and followed after me is not worthy of me.
So he's letting you know, hey, this is going to be your trial. This is going to be your cross. All right? So then you now have to learn, hey, how to bear with this. How to move forward with this. All right? So that's why it says in Leviticus 23, don't go there. Hey, come together, congregate, communicate. All right? It even says that in Malachi 3:16, communicate often one to another. That's how you get to understand, hey, that this is my cross, this is what I have to do, this is what I have to say, and this is how you have to maneuver. All right? So one of the cares of the world can be our family members. All right? One of the cares of the world shall gonna be our family members. Now, a next care of the world, of course, what you're hearing all the time, corona, corona, corona. All right? Corona, corona, corona. Go to the book of Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 5. Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 5. Corona, corona, corona.
This is the book of Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart.
What did God say?
Trust in the Lord with all thine heart.
So he say, trust in the Lord with all thine heart. You have to have trust in God that, hey, guess what? God is in control of everything. So just let God do his due. Like he says in 1 John 5 and 3, if you love me, keep my commandments. That's what we got to do. Keep his commandments. So read it all the way through. Start from the top again.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 5.
Yes.
Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding.
Lean not unto our understanding. Don't listen to that voice in your head when it says, hey, go and do opposite of what the Bible says to do. Read 6.
Verse 6. In all thy way acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths.
And he shall direct thy paths. Go ahead.
Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord, and depart from evil.
Fear the Lord and depart from evil. So guess what? We have to stop doing all of those evil and wicked things that we are doing, not only to ourselves, but also to our brothers who look like us, to our sisters who look like us. All right? To the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. All right? That is first and foremost. We have to first start at home. All right? And that's home base. You so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, that is home base. All right? We look at the other nations, more of a home base than our so-called brothers and sisters who went on the slave ships with us, who had on the yokes of irons with us. Like what we read in Deuteronomy 28:68, when it says, bond men and bond women. Yes. Bond men and bond women. The so-called black man and the so-called black woman went in slavery together. Now, how often do you see the so-called black man with the so-called black woman today? That's a question we also should ask. All right? That's a question we also should ask. Hey, don't forget, the lines are still open. Feel free to call in at 020-471-4291. 020-491. Okay? So, like I was saying, we went into slavery together, but we are the only race of people that what? Hates each other. All right? We are the only race of people that hates each other. So go back to Leviticus chapter 19 and read verse 17 again. Read that piece again. Leviticus 19 and verse 17.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 17.
Yeah.
Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart.
Thou shalt not what?
Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor.
Correct your brother or your sister. Go ahead.
And not suffer sin upon him.
And not suffer sin. Not suffer sin upon him. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not offense nor bear any grudge.
Thou shalt what?
Thou shalt not offense nor bear any grudge.
So revenge and bearing grudge, jealousy. Go ahead.
Against the children of thy people.
Against who?
Against the children of thy people.
You hear that? The children of thy people. The children of thy people. Go ahead.
But thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
So who's your neighbor? Thy people. Your so-called brothers and sisters who went into slavery with you. So-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. Yes, that's thy people. That's our brother. That's our sister. That's our brother and our sister. All right. So we have to what? We have to now learn how to treat each other, like the Bible says, love each other, keeping the commandments towards each other. All right. So guess what? We're gonna touch on another deep topic that also causes this conflict. All right, that also causes this conflict is one of the reasons because hey, we learned that Caesar Borgia was set up as Christ. So that's also one of the big deceptions that the Bible let us know, is that our enemies are lying to us. All right, that our enemies, yes, I said it good, our enemies are lying to us. So first, before you get that, read the book of Deuteronomy chapter 33. Deuteronomy chapter 33, and you're going to read verse 29.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 33 and verse 29.
Yeah?
Happy art thou, O Israel, who is like unto thee, O people saved by the Lord.
Saved by who?
Saved by the Lord.
Go ahead.
The shield of thy help.
The shield of our help. Go ahead.
And who is the sword of thy excellency. And thine enemies shall be found liars unto thee.
What it says? thy what?
And thy enemies shall be found liars unto thee.
And our enemies shall be found liars unto thee. Okay, so let me touch some of the lies. Let's touch some of the lies. Because remember, I said in Deuteronomy 28 and 68, I said the black Messiah, right? So let's touch on some of the lies. Go to Revelation chapter 1. Go to Revelation chapter 1. And you're going to start at verse 1.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 1 and verse 1.
Go ahead.
The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must come shortly, which shortly must come to pass.
Go ahead.
And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John.
Okay, jump to verse 11. You're going to only read the first piece. Go ahead.
Verse 11.
Yeah.
Saying, I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last.
Go ahead.
And what thou seest,
What thou seest, go ahead.
write it in a book.
Write in a book. So guess what? This is the book that John wrote it in. So jump to verse 14 now. Let's see if we get a pale person with stringy hair and blue eyes. Let's see if we get that type of depiction out of the Bible. Read verse 14.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 1, verse 14.
Go ahead.
His head and his hairs were white like wool.
So it gives you the color of his hair, and it also gives you the texture of his hair. So what race of people has woolly hair on earth today? Wallach hair, Cruz hair. What race of people? Yes, correct. The so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. But continue reading.
As white as snow.
As white as snow.
And his eyes were as a flame of fire.
What? Read that piece again.
And his eyes were as a flame of fire.
Did it say his eyes were blue?
And his eyes were as a flame of fire.
His eyes were as a flame of fire. So get me that in Genesis 49 and verse 12. Why were Christ's eyes as a flame of fire? Why were Christ's eyes red? All right. Why were Christ's eyes as red? But guess what? Moses spoke about it from the beginning. Genesis 49, read verse 12.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 49 and verse 12.
Yes.
His eyes shall be red with wine.
Why shall Christ's eyes be red?
With wine.
His eyes shall be red with wine. Wine. What was his first miracle? He turned water into wine. Correct. Turn water into wine. So go back now to Revelation chapter 1 and read verse 14. All of which you know.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 1, verse 14.
Go ahead.
His head and his hairs were white like wool.
So the color and the texture. All right. Go ahead.
As white as snow.
The color. Go ahead.
And his eyes were as a flame of fire.
So what we notice here, he has white woolly hair, Cruz hair, just like maybe some of us have grandfathers and they're 80 something. What color do their hair turn? It turns grays, then it goes fully white. Go ahead.
Verse 15. And his feet like unto fine brass.
His feet like unto fine brass. The color of brass, color of bronze. De kleur van koper is what? Brown, bruinachtig. Brown. Continue reading.
As if they burned in a furnace.
So wait. It says his feet were like the color of fine brass, as if it burnt in a furnace. Burnt. If you burn anything, it turns black. Anything you burn, it turns black. So wait. We have the color of his hair was white, and we have that his texture of his hair were woolly, and we have that his color of his eyes were red, and the color of his skin was black. So wait. All the picture that our parents have on the wall with a pale person with stringy hair and blue eyes, guess what? It's not in the Bible. So when the scriptures say in Deuteronomy 33 and 29, our enemies shall be found liars, this is one of the lies, one of many lies. But you know what that depiction on our parents' wall, yes, I said it. Our parents' wall represent self-hatred. It teaches us how to hate ourselves and hate each other. Yes, it teaches us how to hate ourselves and hate each other. That's why a lot of us here, we have a problem when our children go to school. They call our children Zwarte Piet. Yeah, they call our children Zwarte Piet. Why? Because a lot of our parents still have Caesar Borgia. Yes, that's what his real name is. Caesar Borgia. His name is not Christ. His name is Caesar Borgia. Once he's not the depiction like the Bible describes him, his name is Caesar Borgia. All right? So, guess what? This image teaches our children to what? Hate their skin, and like for the sisters, to hate their hair. Because here we read in here, Christ has woolly hair. But guess what? Our sisters go to the Chinese and buy wigs and buy lace-ins and buy weaves, you name it. And some of the weaves are ridiculous prices. Ridiculous prices. What race of people bleaches their skin? Yes. What race of people bleaches their skin? Vybz Kartel, Lil' Kim, Sammy Sosa, Michael Jackson,
Serena
Williams. This is the race of people that bleaches their skin. But this is the false depiction of Christ that is teaching us to what? To hate each other. It's teaching us to what? Hate ourselves. It's teaching our sisters, our children to what? Hate their hair. When it says Christ has woolly hair. So these are the things that what? Keep us in depression. These are the things that help us suffer. All right? But guess what? Let's that's why it says, read Revelation 1 and 3 now.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 1 and 3. Blessed is he that readeth.
What it says?
Blessed is he that readeth.
So you see, blessed is he that readeth. So now we are getting the understanding, and we are reading. The Bible says, blessed is he that readeth. So now when we start reading the Bible, go to the book of Job chapter 30 and verse 30. When we start reading the Bible now, we're starting to understand, hey, wait a minute. Wait. Christ was dark skinned just like me. Christ had woolly hair just like me. Christ had red eyes because he was drinking a lot of wine. Hey, we get to understand, like, hey, wait a minute. The Bible is speaking about us. So read Job chapter 30 and verse 30.
This is the book of Job, chapter 30, verse 30.
Go ahead.
My skin is black upon me.
Whoa. You reading out of the Bible? Read it again.
My skin is black upon me.
You hear that? My skin is black upon me. This is what Job is saying. My skin is black upon me. We're getting to hear these things that we never ever heard in our lives. So go to Songs of Solomon, chapter 1. You're going to start at verse 1, then you're going to jump at verse 5. We're starting to hear all these things that we never heard. Why? Because a lot of these things have what? Have keeping us, our fathers, our mothers, our brothers and sisters in depression, in a low estate. So read Song of Solomon chapter 1 and verse 1.
This is the book of Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5.
Verse 1. Start at verse 1.
The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's.
The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. So it's telling you this is the son of King David, King Solomon, the wisest man to ever walk the earth. This is his. Jump to verse 5. Let's hear what King Solomon have to say.
Verse 5.
Uh-huh.
I am black.
What?
I am black.
I am what?
I am black.
You hear what King Solomon say? He is black, but what?
I am black, but comely.
You hear that? I am black, but comely, but beautiful. What race of people says, I am black, but beautiful? Yeah, continue reading.
O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tent of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon.
As the curtains of Solomon. So you see, even King Solomon is saying, I am black. So when we start reading these things have to what? Boost us out of depression. Yes, these things have to boost us out of depression. Give me that in Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6. Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 and verse 6.
Yes.
For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God.
Go ahead.
The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people.
So the God, Most High God, chose us to be a special people. Go ahead.
Unto himself.
So he chose us to be a special people unto himself. Go ahead.
Above all people.
Equal.
Above all people.
Equal.
All people.
Above all people. Go ahead.
That are upon the face of the earth.
This is the Bible that we are reading. This is the Bible that we are reading. So if God chose us to be a special people above all people that are upon the face of the earth, why are we depressed? We don't have anything to be depressed of. The scriptures say, hey, if you love me, keep my commandments. That's why, hey, we have Facebook, we have YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all of these social media outlets that you can get in contact, reach out, find out more about your history. Yes, the Bible is our history. Okay, the Bible is our history. So we have all these things to what? Boost us out of depression, because we just read, hey, Job was black, King Solomon black, Christ black. We could go on the whole night with these color scriptures, but get me the book. Let's go to Sirach 30 and verse 21. Don't forget, we're still on the topic of depression. All right, but let's hear what God says. Sirach chapter 30 and verse 21.
This is the book of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, chapter 30, verse 21.
Yes.
Give not over thy mind to heaviness.
You hear that? Give not over thy mind to heaviness. Go ahead.
And afflict not thyself in thine own counsel.
Yes, exactly. Afflict not thyself in thine own counsel. Heaviness is what? It's stress. Heaviness is depression. Go ahead.
22. The gladness of the heart is the life of man.
So, hey, it says the gladness of the heart is the life of man. Go ahead.
And the joyfulness of man prolongeth his days.
and the joyfulness of man prolong his days. You get to live longer when you're happy. All right. It says depression kills you. All right. Depression, give not over thy, in verse 21, give not over thy mind to heaviness, and afflict not thy soul, thyself in thine own counsel. Read verse 23.
Verse 23.
Uh-huh.
Love thine own soul.
Go ahead.
And comfort thy heart.
Go ahead.
Remove sorrow far from thee.
Remove sorrow far from thee. Why?
For sorrow had killed many.
You hear that? Depression had killed many. Go ahead.
And there is no profit therein.
And there is no profit therein. Get me that in Proverbs 15 and verse 30. There's no profit therein. So you afflicting yourself in your own counsel, but the Bible is telling you, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and keep his commandments. Guess what? His commandments is also telling you to, hey, come out of your comfort zone. All right? So give me that in Proverbs 15 and verse 13.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 15, verse 13.
Yes?
A merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance.
One more time.
A merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance.
A merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance. You see that you're happy. Right? When you have a merry heart. Go ahead.
But by sorrow of the heart, the spirit is broken.
The what?
But of sorrow of the heart, the spirit is broken.
But by sorrow of the heart, the spirit is broken. And you don't want your spirit to be broken. All right? After hearing, hey, all of this history that we just read about the Bible, about Job, about King Solomon, about Christ. So this is what we have to follow. Give me that in Proverbs 12 and 15 now. Proverbs 12 and verse 15.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 12, verse 15. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes.
So everything what we just read today, it says the way of a fool is right in his own eyes. Go ahead.
But he that hearkeneth unto counsel is wise.
But he that listens to counsel is wise. He that listens to, hey, how to maneuver your life, what to do now. You heard, according to Deuteronomy 28, that you're an Israelite, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. You heard that. Now you heard, okay, hey, the Caesar Borgia on our mother walls, that is not the depiction of Christ. When you read Revelation chapter 1, it tells you he has white woolly hair, red eyes, and black skin. All right? So it already is lining up and telling us what to do. Give me that in Deuteronomy chapter 10, and you're going to read verse 12 now. Deuteronomy chapter 10 and verse 12. Because now we realize, hey, wait a minute. We are God's chosen people. He chose us to be a special people unto himself above all people on the face of the earth. Yes, God chose us. He chose us. That's why we do everything better. All right? For instance, guess what? Hamilton, he's the best F1 driver. Yeah. Guess what? Yeah. Max Verstappen? Nah. Hamilton? Yeah. Okay. Read that one in Deuteronomy chapter 10.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10, verse 12. And now, Israel, what doth the Lord thy God require of thee?
So what does God require from us? Go ahead.
But to fear the Lord thy God.
Go ahead.
To walk in all his ways. And to love him.
And to love him. Go ahead.
And to serve the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thy soul.
Go ahead.
To keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I command thee this day for thy good.
For what?
For thy good.
So you see, it becomes our good when we keep God's laws, statutes, and commandment. He's going to what? Keep us safe. All right? It becomes our good to what? To keep his commandments. Okay? So let's get two more scriptures. First Kings chapter 8. So after we heard all of this, guess what? Hey, it's time for us now to change. Now to change. Yes. First Kings chapter 8, and you're gonna start at verse 46.
This is the book of First Kings, chapter 8, verse 46. If they sin against thee.
So if they sin against thee. So there's that word again. If they sin against thee. So hold this. Let's get the meaning of the word sin. All right. Meaning of the word sin. We can come back right here. Meaning of the word sin. First John
Chapter
3 and
and 4.
verse. Yes, correct. So we have to get the meaning of the word sin so we all understand, hey, what does sin means?
This is the book of First John, chapter 3 and verse 4. Whosoever committed sin transgresseth also the law.
Whosoever makes sin or does sin breaks also the law. Go ahead.
For sin is the transgression of the law.
For sin is the breaking of God's laws. All right, so that's sin. All right, that is sin. For instance, the Bible says Adam and Eve, guess what? Esau says, the other nation says Adam and Adam. That's the breaking of God's laws. So go back to 1 Kings now, chapter 8 and verse 46.
This is the book of First King, chapter 8 and chapter 8, verse 46. If they sin against thee, for there is no man that sinneth not.
Go ahead.
And thou be angry with them.
Go ahead.
And deliver them to the enemy.
Didn't that happen to us? We were delivered to the enemy, just like it says in Deuteronomy 28:48. Go ahead.
So that they carry them away captive unto the land of the enemy, far or near.
Weren't we carried away captives onto the land of the enemy far away? Weren't we carried away on slave ships very far? Yes, we were. Verse 47.
47. Yet, if they shall bethink themselves.
So now we get in the understanding of the Bible. This is what the Bible is speaking about. Yet, if we bethink themselves, if we start to now look at the Bible with a different pair of eyes now. Go ahead.
In the land whither they were carried captives.
Yes, in this same land. What we have to do in this land, go ahead.
And repent.
And change. We got to change in this same land. Go ahead.
And make supplication unto thee in the land of them that carried them captive.
So in this same land, we have to what? Pray to God. Go ahead.
Saying.
What do we have to say?
Saying. We have sinned.
So that's why we got the meaning of the word sin. Because we have to go to God and say, God, we have sinned. This is our prayer to God. Once we see, hey, I have to change. It's time to change. Go ahead.
And have done perversely.
Go ahead.
We have committed wickedness.
So this is what we have to do. We have to go to God in prayer, pray to Him, say we have sinned, we have done perversely, we have committed wickedness, and we have to now do what? We have to change our ways. All right? We have to change our ways. So hey, we're gonna close out there. All right, we're gonna close out there, and don't forget, tune in to our Facebook page, IUIC Netherlands, IUIC Amsterdam. Tune in to our YouTube page, Twitter, Instagram, and Yeah, Twitter and Instagram. All right. So with that, we're gonna say, hey, shalom. Most High Christ bless.
So, most High Christ bless.
Make it turn for your people. Wise up, I feel be smart. DJ, turn up the vibes on the start. Ring tune, pull it up, celebrate cause we no carry grudge in the heart. We no carry grudge in the heart. Everybody feel right, right. Good vibes in the place all night. Cause we no carry grudge, we people. We no have time for your study, no evil. Don't make them catch you with the bad energy. Smiling on your face, but me I tell like them my enemy. How many times you try to cure them? I fi cut them out, that are the only remedy. Everybody go through things. We no perfect, so we no do the blame game thing. Know this trial's gonna come one day. I fi endure, adapt me and sing. Any function must clean, then step out, peel out, jump in a car, tire screech out, screech out. GPS it have put in the route. Dream team touch the scene, everybody scream out. Wait up, turn up the vibes from the start. Ring tune, pull it up, celebrate.